Death. Perhaps the most heartbreaking way hoyover's tell their stories. Back then, it was Himeko from Honkai Impact 3rd. Most recently, the discussions of who is going to die are getting reignited by the potential death of Xiao that got evaded by Zhongli's precognition and convenient timing. Albedo, Child, Lisa, Kaya, and Scaramouche are a few characters that have shown red flags and are frequently used in conversations about who's going to die. I will reverse this topic, use clues hidden in plain sight, and delve into speculation territory to show you who has the potential to get reanimated or come back from disappearance. During the most recent Archon quest, Perilous Trail, the concept of time became complicated with the puzzle that involved us traveling through few points in the past. We had to destroy this small tree branch from the past so it won't grow and block the compass in the future. Completing the puzzle allowed us to reach a time before that, then a time ahead of when we first arrived, and a time far back when it was nothing but an abyss-like void. This whole time travel thing that happened to us was an illusion created by the chaotic space, but it does not create original illusions. As Yanfei figured out, the chaotic space screws with time and space. It showed us Xiao even if he was far away because he was in our minds. As the domain that showed us memories we fear, the space can read minds to create illusions. This means the time travel function of the compass was not just an illusion. Someone trapped in the chaotic space before had to have walked through time using the compass at some point in time. So the chaotic space knows how to mimic that function again using the compass made from the illusion. Which means, if we can find a function in compass, we can also travel through time, not just through an illusion, but for real. This opens up several new possibilities. Characters who have died many years ago can be revived or brought back into the future via the compass. The compass is a device originally from Kandria, as I explained why in detail in my last theory. In Kandria, or now Abyss, time has no meaning. So a device that can hop through time makes sense if we consider Abyss is an 4-dimensional space. In 4th-dimensional realms, time travel is like walking to the nearest store. Much about the compass is still a mystery. Even if it doesn't have the function to bring back people from the past, it's a convenient way to resolve events from the past. Like how this Archon quest dealt with the disappearance of Bosesius through time travel. Stories of characters like Parsifal, who had the worst possible life, and his lover, Blue-Eyed Spear Witch. She died in the end because of her relationship with him, even without knowing each other's fate. And his eventual friend in Liyue, Skipper, he wielded the serpent spine and met his end fighting a sea monster with his crew and Parsifal. The deaths of the other Yaksha, events from the Archon War like Guizhang's death, Havria's death, and Orobashi's death, the temporary death of A, the truth about Old Mondstadt, events that happened in Kandria before the twins arrived, etc. We knew the possibility of time travel since Raiden Shogun's second story quest. We planted the sacred Sakura tree from the present, but it was actually planted in Makoto's version of Plano Utamiya, which exists in the past. Even if there is a possibility of the compass not allowing us to drag characters from the past, we were able to interact with the tree branch from the past and change the future. So technically, we could interact with a character from the past, making the dead character alive again. Vennessa and Gohua, two characters we know that ascended to Celestia as Allergenes. They never technically died to begin with, just ascended to Celestia once the Archon and Celestia recognized that they are suitable to ascend. Until now, we haven't seen an Archon being replaced with our own eyes. But if in the future, one of the current Archons had to be replaced, Murata, then one of the ascended Allergenes can take that position. Or if we have the chance to visit Celestia, we eventually have to reach the floating island in the sky, since some theories about Celestia being a prison are floating around, it would be a prison break quest. And since we have already gathered 3 Archons in our roster, it wouldn't hurt the power balance if they even become playable characters. At the end of Genshin manga chapter 0, Vennessa ascended to Celestia and turned into an eagle. Gohua, as an Adaptus, is said to have ascended and become a star. So people believe he also ascended to Celestia. If these two are confirmed ascended Allergenes, who might play a part in the story, there are likely to be more others like them, which could very well be a part of a future quest and get resurrected with their bodies again.
it is to everyone's regret that the stove god passed. But gods cannot be fully destroyed, and we made a pact to wait until the land became fruitful once more. For perhaps the stove god would then return, albeit in a new form.
Gods can die, but they cannot be killed. Just now I sounded like that one meme from Fate. The physical body of all gods can be killed, but according to what Madam Ping said, their souls cannot be killed by any other person. It's not in the literal sense of they can never die, but in Buddhism, a person who has reached enlightenment cannot be killed by any physical means. They have to wish for their own existence to end, and that's how they can die. In this video, I explain how the illuminated adepti or adepti that have opened their third eye or mind's eye are either closer to enlightenment or enlightened. And most if not all gods in Liyue are adepti, making all of the gods in Liyue enlightened. There is a story I learned some time ago that goes like this. Due to a misunderstanding, a king punished an enlightened monk by putting him in a boiling oil cauldron. But the monk didn't die from the heat. He would feel his body being burned, but he could not die. Eventually, the monk decided to leave the mortal body and die. This made the gods angry, and they made a tsunami to punish the mortal kingdom. This enlightened state is called different from region to region, but it's the same concept for all gods in Teyvat. They all have reached a kind of enlightenment according to their own region's rule. It could be understanding the true nature of their element or their ambition. Whichever it may be, the gods of Teyvat are enlightened and cannot be killed via external force, only through their own volition. Hence why evil gods who have a grudge against Morak spread their miasma, but not from the gods like Havria or Guizhang, who died for a good reason. Since they cannot be killed, if someone recreated their body, for say they could be resurrected. Even then, after Morax killed Guizhang, he stopped killing his enemy gods and started sealing them. So any of these gods could be revived if the seals are broken, like how Futui broke the seal of Osial. After Decarabian's supposed death during All Monster Revolt, Wendy placed 3 seals on the palace for no apparent reason. But if you think back to what I said earlier, a god cannot die, so Decarabian is still there, waiting for someone to wake him up. We removed the 3 barriers in Stormterror's lair during the Archon quest, and now there is nothing to steal the dead god. Also, Senora ripped the gnosis of Wendy, so he cannot replace the seal either. And the storm barriers around Decarabian made during his rule are still in place even after his death. So in the future, there is a high possibility that Decarabian would be revived. I don't know about you, but I am excited to see that. Then there is Orobashi, the serpent god of Watatsumi Island. As I said earlier, the miasma that gives off from dead god's body only happens if that god's soul is still lingering. As recorded in Baptismal Bishop experimental records, during their time in Enconomia, Orobashi kept experimenting with bishops to fuse him into them, so the people of Watatsumi can use the blood branch coral to keep replacing the seal that separate Enconomia and Watatsumi to stop the soil from eroding. If you read the description of the blood branch coral, it contains the life force of Orobashi. Combine that with the lingering soul, and we get a revived Orobashi. During the Cataclysm 500 years ago, a lot of people went missing. Some were engulfed in darkness, some devoured by beasts, and some lost in the abyss. Among them is Kitsune Saigo, the Guji of Narukami-Shrine 500 years ago. During the War of Kandria, she was assigned to protect Inazuma in Raiden Shogun's absence. But there is a blank space in her story between the time she was guarding Inazuma and the time she left to be consumed by darkness. The reason she intentionally let the darkness consume her is still unknown, but none of the stories in either the Hakushin Ring or Shimenawa's Reminiscence artifact set say anything about she dying. It's always said she is consumed by darkness, dark veil, or deep darkness. If we assume this darkness is the abyss, there are clearly people who went there and came back alive. But there is one peculiar line in Capricious Visage Circlet. Losing one's memory is no different from losing one's life. It is like death amidst darkness eternal. It's not that deep, but it looks like she had to let go of her memories as the people cursed with immortality had to do. so her body and soul are still alive, just without the memories. Then Raiden Shogun's other friend, Mikoshi Chiyo, the Oni Maiden. She was swallowed whole by a monster during the monster invasion of Kandria. While she was trapped in the beast's belly, she got infected by the darkness, which later corrupted her. In that corrupted state, she attacked A, only to be beaten, lose one of her arms and horns before she ran away. She also never died, only ran away. Since Oni does live a long life, we may run into her in the future. During the same time in Mondstadt, one of Rostam's students, White Knight or Bloodstained Knight, did disappear into the abyss. During the monster invasion, Rostam created a party to exterminate monsters. During this mission, the White Knight was blinded by the satisfaction of killing something in the name of justice. He was insane to the point that people he saved feared him. When he came to his senses, he was the Bloodstained Knight. Because he was feared by his own people, he left to the source of the monsters, Kandria. In the same timepiece story, Bloodstained Chivalry, he died and also pledged loyalty to the Abyss. So it's like, is he dead? Is he not? Is it a metaphor for his past self dying? He is technically mortal and cannot live for 500 years. But time has no meaning in Abyss. So he is in this weird situation where it's unclear if he is still alive or not. And I know someone is going to say he is Dainsleif. But no, Bloodstained Knight came long after everyone was cursed. The creator of Kunvo series. Kunvo was once a scholar of Sumeru Academia who eventually found the Sundial of Endured Jade, created by Morax. He was so awe-inspired by how perfect it was, he made making a similar timepiece his life's goal. Interesting thing is, the Vortex Vanquisher, now Zhongli's signature weapon, was initially named Kunvo's Iris Rift in 3rd close beta. They used the same assets but changed all the stats and descriptions. So it matches more to Zhongli's kit. And previous description supposedly has said Kunvo became an Adeptus, and then he forged a spear with a meteoroid. Further, it says it can cut through rainbows, which only exists now as Chinese name on the Vortex Vanquisher,
冠红之硕
Lance of Rainbow Piercer. There must have been a reason for the devs to remove Kunvo's connections to the sphere, and it seems like they are waiting to bring him back with a redesign. And Senora, obviously, everyone is talking about her. There are theories about how she is a moth and she will be coming back with the life cycle of a moth and how she is going to resurrect from her ashes. That's totally BS and ripped from Phoenix Myths, by the way. So there is no point in me also talking about her. The playability of these characters depend on the dev's decision. So any of these characters could come back to life for a moment to tell a plot point. But releasing them as playable characters and the rerun potential of them is another matter. They said a rerun happens if a character is involved in that patch events. So for example, would they keep time traveling to the same place just to rerun a character? So think about it for a while and leave a comment on who would be playable among these characters, some I talked about, and also any I ditched. But this is a piece of my madness. I hope this video piqued your curiosity. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, join the madness by hitting that subscribe button, and if you are interested, check out these cool videos on theories and other lore stuff. Anyway, remember, this is just a theory in a random dude's head on the internet. Thanks for watching, and until next time, let your imaginations run wild.